Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith. Inside this prototype unboxing, let's check out the Crucible coming to GameFound this month. You'll find the exact date of the launch and the campaign page link in the pinned comment and video description if you're interested in this one. Inside of this video, I'm going to take you through every single component that came inside this prototype box, and then we're going to dive into a gameplay video where I'll show you the game in action to help you make an informed decision on it. So without further ado, let's head inside the box. I'll show you all the game components, the miniatures as well, and also worth mentioning, everything here is a prototype, subject to change and not in its final form, and all the miniatures are in resin. The first thing inside the box I found is the Trial of Ruin, a quick guide to damnation. This is going to take us through a number of pages, which I'll be covering in the game overview and gameplay video to come. I'll certainly be showing you some pages inside of this booklet in just a second. We'll continue through the rest of the components first. As we continue into the prototype box, there are some cards, some tokens, some acrylic cubes. We've got a drawstring bag there with dice inside. We have some dashboards for the characters. I believe there's one here in this box. I believe another one is actually on its way to me. So I'll have two dashboards in the end for two different characters. And there's more characters beyond those two in the final version of the game, but I'll have two to myself to use. And underneath, there is a game board, which I'll be unfolding and showing you fully here set up on the table. Let's start things off with the game board, which at first glance looks great. The usage of light throughout the board certainly makes those elements pop. The shadows look even more dark and gritty, and you can also see some cool things kind of hidden within the darkness. So I'll take some up-close shots so you can see and appreciate the artwork buried within. It appears the prior individuals in this room did not do so well. And while there's bones of humans, there appears to be bones of animals as well, including a knight that recently appears to have died. As I mentioned before, I really appreciate the lighting on this game board and the focus on the artwork of the game board itself rather than dividing lines of where the characters will be standing on the map. You can still see each of the individual squares easily with black lines breaking everything up, but instead of using white lines and ruining the actual aesthetic of the game board, they left it muted so you can actually appreciate the artwork on the game board, and I like that a lot because it does look really good. These individuals did not make it. You can see that magma fire or some kind of residual fire effect basically cascading through the floor of the actual environment, and I think that looks awesome. And last but not least, in the bottom left-hand corner, a number of skulls, four of them in fact, that are coming through the floor, it appears, on fire, of course. Let's now move on to the quick start guide, and the first thing it asks you is why explore the Crucible. In the Crucible, you'll be embarking on a dark fantasy odyssey where every decision leaves its mark, and there's a number of things that set it apart, and they've got a bullet list here. It says living rune, tactical enemy AI, narratively weighted choices, items with a real price, tiered progression, and a dynamic combat system. On the right-hand side is a table of contents breaking things into major sections like the character, the turn, special rules, magic, the campaign, and the scenarios. Down below, a quick note for players and testers. They're basically telling everybody that here is everything you need to play the introductory scenario, which I'll be focusing on here on the channel for the crowdfunding campaign. But in the final version, the full rulebook will have greater depth, including additional enemy types, items, scenarios, magic, corruption paths, and combat variants. So this is very much a snippet of what's to come. At this point, the game welcomes you to the Crucible, the Trial of Ruin. The Quick Start Guide has some flavor text here talking more about what's going on and what it offers. The objective of the game is to survive the horrors of the Crucible, overcome your scenarios, and make decisions that will shape your character. Survival isn't measured solely by life or death. Corruption, madness, and addiction are just as lethal as physical wounds. Your tactical and moral choices will determine whether you emerge from the Crucible as a hero or something far worse. And it just mentions down below what do you need to actually enter the Trial of Ruin, which we'll talk about in a future video. As I mentioned, the miniatures, 10-sided dice, the game board, tokens, cards, character sheets, everything you're going to see inside of this unboxing video. Now, the first couple of pages focus on the character. On the prior page, there was character attributes on the right, and then it gets into runes of ruin. And then you have the enemy, gets into the turn next, and the turn divided into three major phases. You can see Descent, Crucible, Sanctum. It's going to be going clockwise around these. Descent has movement and magic. Crucible has combat. Sanctum has rituals. And as you go further in, you're going to find out more about how the AI is going to be coming after you in the future using movement and attacks. Combat overall in the game is broken into some major sections here. The attack itself, the defense of that attack, damage, counterattacks, and pushes, and that wraps up combat resolution. Now, this game also appears to have a number of other aspects to focus on, things like rituals. I'm excited to find out more about that, dealing with your equipment, and actually that leads right into the special rules, which talk about equipment and obtaining more equipment through scenario loot, enemy loot, fortunate encounters, fallen companions, and exchanging things. Now, the game has multiple different types of equipment. It has forbidden equipment, arcane, armory, And finally, red thirst. You'll also see addiction is a big part of the game. You'll be using things during the game like potions, amulets, ritual scrolls, weapons that might be cursed, and they all potentially have addiction attached to them. And as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't just have physical wounds or addiction, it also has madness and corruption as two other things to keep an eye on when you play through the game. The game also has magic. You can use spell casting in the game, and then we get into the campaign as we get towards the back end of this book. What's also nice to see is some backstories for the characters. If you want some flavor text as to who these characters are and what they're all about, you'll find it here in the Quick Start Guide. That's nice to see they put that level of detail in there to kind of pull you into the world more. And last but not least, we got some setup instructions for different scenarios found inside the Quick Start Guide. So Act 1 intro, we had the flavor text there to read. There's also a full illustration on how to set it up with the tokens. The tokens are detailed right here in the setup instructions. So there's enemy vortexes, scenery, mystery tokens to deal with, loot to find, optional things that can happen like secrets and turbulences. And then there's the enemies themselves, what kind of enemies are coming out, the Daughters of Shadow, the waves and flow of the game in terms of how each turn is going to be handled. There might be special effects that are going to happen on a turn-by-turn basis, and that comes in this section. The victory and defeat conditions, what you're focusing on, in this case, closing vortexes on the board, and then the scaling rules for 2 heroes or for solo mode mentioned right here. Moving on to the player dashboard, which is recessed, allowing you to put your acrylic cubes inside of it to ensure they don't get knocked around. Tracks things like madness, corruption, addiction. You have spaces for your hero cards along it as well, and attributes for your character to track. The final game components to go through before we get into the miniatures are some acrylic cubes. We got some dice in a drawstring bag, some tokens to look at, and cards. Now let's check out the miniatures. These are resin, and I'll only be showing you the unique sculpts. There's multiples of some of them. And that's going to wrap up my prototype unboxing for the Crucible, coming to Game Found inside of June. The exact date, as well as the campaign page link, can be found in the pinned comment and video description. Don't forget to let us know in the comments down below what you think of the Crucible and what you saw inside this prototype unboxing. I am very excited to show you guys gameplay of this one, and that'll be coming in the near future. If you're new to the channel or you've been here for some time and you've never jumped into the Discord server or the Facebook group, we have a solo community in both those locations. Feel free to jump into both or one or the other if you have a preference. We'd love to have your voice as part of either one of those communities. And if you enjoy what I do here and it helps you get games off the shelf to the table, learned and played, and also helps you to find games that might be of interest to you, then be sure to find the join button on the homepage of the channel where you can become a YouTube member and gain early access to videos along with a number of other perks you can't get anywhere else. Thanks so much for watching and your support, and as always, keep on rolling solo.